One of the most interesting parts about Sorare is the engagement with the real world of football, the evolution of different players, different teams, different situations. You can go and pick up your first 5 or 6 cards, and then all of a sudden some of these heroes become zeros. They get injured, they get dropped, they get transferred. Something bad happens in their situation, and they go from being useful to you to being absolutely dead in the water, and you cannot really use them in SO5. And for the majority of cards you're buying, their key purpose is their SO5, their 5-a-side utility. When we're going and building our first squad, the first 5, 10, 15, 20 cards that we're picking up, we have to be giving ourselves as much option and as much availability to be able to reposition and move with the changing currents with the market, whether it be things that we're speaking about, injuries and transfers, unforeseens that you cannot predict are going to happen. There's no possibility you could have seen that coming. So how do we do that? We'll be breaking down the video down today in terms of the mechanics of building your first squad, going from 5 or 6 cards, those foundation pieces, and really moving up so you can compete in different regions or compete in the one region you're targeting as strongly and as effectively as possible. With Sorare, there's not that many black and white situations where this is the right thing to do and that's the wrong thing. There's so much grey, but the philosophy and the key strategy that you're adopting at each stage is what's going to differentiate the decisions for you, so you know that's the one for me and that's maybe not the one for me today. That may be something I come back to in 3 months from now when I've had a bit more success and I've got a bit more cards on my side to trade in the market. I've maybe made some profit for some trades. I've maybe won some stuff. Anytime in the video today, guys, if you laugh, you learn, you like something, please do a massive favor for me, and that is smash that thumbs up button below, hit subscribe and hit the notifications on. It goes a long way to supporting the channel, and I cannot thank you enough for your support. I hope you enjoy the video, and let's get stuck into it. This part of the game gets very mechanical. Most managers, when they start on Sorare, they want to get 12-month coverage. They want to be able to cover the calendar top to bottom, play every game weeks they can, fight as often as possible, and play the law of averages. What is the law of averages? The more you play, the more chance you've got of winning, basically. Unfortunately, in the real world of football, there is no division that plays 12 months of the year. Every league gets an off season, and most of them will get a winter break or a mid-season break of some description. So if you are looking for absolute calendar coverage, which almost everyone does when they first start, you need to diversify the field that you are shopping in. You need to move into different regions, and you need to move into different leagues. In this video, I'll break down the profiles of the leagues that I recommend the strongest for you to be doing that to get that absolute calendar coverage. But we can only do that once we've identified our philosophy and picked up our foundation pieces. If you missed the video where I broke all that down, that's going to be in the description of this video down below. If you haven't even opened your account yet with Sorare, there's also a link down there that'll entitle you to a free card once you've bought 5 from the market. All you need to do is hit the link that's in the description down below, sign up directly, and then you can come back and watch the rest of the video knowing as soon as you go back and actually buy a couple of cards, you're going to get a free card. It's the way everyone signs up, and if you don't do that, you're going to be 1 card less off than everyone else you're playing against. So the first 2 things that I can't do for you, unfortunately, is you need to set, number 1, a time scale. The time scale for you to go from where you are now to the finished article where you've got 15 or so cards, maybe 20 cards, and you can compete 12 months of the year or so. It's going to be dictated by your personal budget, which I've got no idea what that's going to be, and that is really down to you. You need to step aside and have a little plan of how long it's going to take you to accrue these cards, whether it be through injecting some capital into the game, or whether it be through some sort of success on the secondary market doing trades, or you can pull some Ethereum from the thresholds in Global All-Star, or you can just win some limited cards and get active in the market. And then the second thing, and this is really difficult, but you've got to try your best to set some sort of template. Because if you don't have an objective, you don't have something you're striving towards, then it becomes very easy to become sidetracked and move away from the goals, and then before you know it, you're a boat without a rudder and you're kind of going nowhere pretty quickly. So you need to set an expected success rate. Once you get to this point, once you get your 15, 20 cards and the profiles we're about to talk about, how successful do you expect to be? Do you think you're going to finish first every game week? Would you like to finish first once a year? Would you like to get into the prizes once a month? These are the objectives, these are the success rates that you need to identify and establish alongside the time scale it's going to take you to achieve this in terms of the cards you're going to be bringing in, which is going to be dictated by your personal budget. Now for me, my personal budget is always dictated by the money I use for my hobbies, the money I use for my pastimes, you know, the things that I would use to buy a fishing rod with, or I would go and pay for a hotel with to go away for the weekend, or I'd buy some football tickets with, or I'd buy some collectible action figures, something like that. I only use my hobby money. Some people put in much less and some people put in much more. Each to their own, but that's what I do. Now, it's much easier to set targets on the individual cards that you're picking up when you're trying to measure individual yield or an ROI from something that you're spending a couple £100 on. It's a lot easier to set achievable targets over a longer time scale. I'm not a fan of people buying cards for a game week or two. The more time you give yourself to be successful, the more likely you're going to be successful. So I would always try and buy cards that are going to cover me for at least a football season, you know, at the very least. If not, I'll try and pick up a card this season that I'm really planning on using next year. But again, these targets and this foresight is going to be dictated by your strategy and your budget. But to be clear, the longer you give yourself, the better off you'll be for it. It's less stressful and there's much more room for success. So, we've got all that out of the way. Let's talk about the fun stuff. Let's get stuck into the mechanics. Now, if you're brand new, you've been here less than 6 months, the two leagues that you need to get to know to give yourself the best calendar coverage possible is the MLS and the Turkish Super League. The reason for this is both of these calendars overlap perfectly. You get nice little segments where they both play at the same time, and that'll make you double as strong. You can put out even more teams, you can get involved in even more lineups and try and win even more prizes. And then, when one's off and there's only the other on, you're still going to be in the mix. You're still going to be competitive. You've still got a team that you've backed and you've built and you're ready to rock and get stuck into the leaderboards with. Both of these leagues have got plenty of teams in them with lots of different profiles and come at very affordable prices because there is such variety available. The great thing about the MLS, if you're an English speaker like I am, is it's English speaking, so it's dead easy to pick up the media, get to know the writers, get to know the guys that do the podcasts, and get to know a little bit more under the bonnet of some of these clubs that you've maybe never heard of or maybe never even watched before, especially the players you'll have not heard of any of them. Comes to Turkey, there's about 3 or 4 clubs that you will probably recognise their name. The guys like Fenerbahce, Galatasaray and Besiktas, of course, and then a few other guys that have got plenty of money that pick up the old gold from around Europe and bring them into the Turkish Super League. The great thing about the Turkish Super League is it's one of the biggest divisions in Europe. It doesn't have a winter break as such, and they play the most amount of matches of anyone in the Challenger Euro region. The Challenger Euro region is the region I recommend everyone starts in because there is such a wide array, wide variety of leagues, clubs and profiles of players available. But when you focus in on the Turkish league specifically, you're going to get much more utility in terms of the amount of times you can enter teams. A combination of players from these leagues would be lethal in under 23s and in the Global All-Star. There's plenty of big hitters that are in these leagues, and unfortunately because they're not the sexiest league around, they're not the most fashionable teams, a lot of the players will be overlooked and underpriced, and that's the edge and that's the advantage that we're looking for. Now, we'll start with goalkeepers. You need to have goalkeepers that are going to play. There's plenty of goalkeepers out there that are clear, confirmed number ones, and then there's plenty of ones out there that are fighting for the number 1 spot. Maybe youth prospects, guys that might go out on loan. The best advice, the best strategy you can adopt when it comes to goalkeepers is trying to pick up as many profiles at as many different price points as you possibly can. The reason for this is goalkeepers are one of the best ways for you to build a wallet and really maneuver through the market and grow and move your club up through the levels. I did a fantastic video called You're Doing Goalkeepers Wrong. That'll be linked in the description down below, and if you want more information on that, you can check it out. But if we're looking to achieve absolute calendar coverage, we're going to need a starting goalkeeper from the MLS, and we're going to need a starting goalkeeper from the Turkish League. Now, whatever scarcity you're shopping in, your first job is going to have to be finding a guy that you can get behind, who you know is a number 1. There's no question mark over it, that you can afford to bring into the club. By having one from the MLS and having one from Turkey, those goalkeepers are going to activate you to get into regions and get into divisions 12 months of the year. Because the goalkeepers are a sizable purchase, a very noteworthy strategy is what's called handcuffing, and that's when you buy a recognised number 1 goalkeeper's understudy. You buy their second in command, the guy that's on the bench that's ready to step in if they get suspended, injured or dropped. The reason this is a smart strategy is those guys are very cheap, and it's a little insurance policy for you. If the guy did get dropped, if something crazy did happen, maybe a bigger team comes and buys him, something like that, then you've got the guy who's ready to step up into the action, and you're not going to miss out on anything with an unforeseen circumstance happening to your number 1 goalkeeper. Ideally, if you can handcuff both goalkeepers with your budget, fantastic, but I would definitely directly handcuff one of them. After that, I would also be looking for another goalkeeper who's nowhere near a first team, but is a very young and high prospect. These guys don't really come across too cheap either, but compared to a guy that does play, they're very, very cheap. And like I mentioned a moment ago, when those guys do get into the team, they can be a great weapon for you to go and actually build your wallet. Maybe you sell them into the market, or they give you a newfound team. You've got 3 goalkeepers now all of a sudden that play. You can play 3 teams and you can get stuck in a bit better. So once you get to your first 15, 20 cards, I think you've got to have around 3, 4, 5 goalkeepers, something like that, with the kind of profiles we've described already. If you were to go for a 5th goalkeeper, the kind of opportunity I'd be looking for is a clear trade opportunity. A goalkeeper that has been number 1, was a number 1, is a number 1, but isn't the now. You know, the guy's dropped him, he's went to a club, it's not worked out, the manager doesn't like him, the manager's brought in someone new and younger and dropped the guy. That guy is a number 1 and he wants to play, and he's going to get a transfer in the summer. He's going to come out of contract in the summer. He's going to get a loan, something like that. Again, these guys will not be mega cheap, but they'll be much cheaper than a starting goalkeeper. And then when this situation comes to fruition, you stand in line to benefit. Once we've got those 5 goalkeepers, 4 goalkeepers locked and loaded and ready to go, you've then got a lot of confidence and a lot of weight off your shoulders that you can actually now get the pieces around them that are going to help you win, that are going to help you get into the top 100, that are going to help you chase down the podium. Without goalkeepers at play and without having those goalkeepers in the background that could come to fruition, you're always going to be chasing your tail with who's playing next week, and oh, my guy got dropped, and oh, I've not got a goalkeeper this week anymore, and that becomes frustrating and it becomes expensive. Now, for each position, defence, midfield and attack, if we're looking for that calendar coverage, I'd be looking for a minimum of 1 from the Turkish League and 1 from the MLS to give you that foundation of actually playing the game and getting stuck in. The other pieces you're going to put around that, I would always encourage some sort of diversification. As we've seen in this transfer window, there's players transferring all over the world from different regions and different leagues into ones that are much more household names, which feels like never before. Now, beyond that, we're going to have some defenders, midfielders and forwards that come from these regions as well that are going to build that base foundation. But the supplementary players, the ones that are going to be around your squad that help buff you up to get in when the fixtures are lean or when there's just a midweek fixture, there's only a couple of teams playing, I always recommend to people that you try and just get the guys in other regions or in different leagues that you're not used to, that do pop up on your radar when you're doing statistical analysis and you're looking at all-round scores and L5s and the real world of football scores from apps like SofaScore and WhoScored.com. The guys that pop up on your radar that weren't in your thinking before operate in a league, operate in a region that you're not thinking about at the moment. If you can pick up a few of those guys to be tertiary players, ones that just lie in the background and they can be called upon whenever you require them, give you the freedom of knowing when you win a reward that maybe you're not that excited about. It's a goalkeeper from Japan, it's a midfielder from America, it's a striker from Argentina, that some of these tertiary cards that you'll have knocking around that you do like, that you do see a lot of promise in, that you see as great value for money, can then become even more useful as you start to accrue other pieces that can complement them in the right situation. Whether it be defenders, midfielders or forwards, I'd always be looking for those kind of guys around the world in different regions that you can pick up at different price points that offer you a stable score of somewhere between 40 and 60 that you can rely upon most game weeks whenever you need to call upon them. Further down the road, at some point, your club is going to grow, your club is going to have more and more squads available to enter into SO5. But to have that amount of cards through purchasing is very expensive. You have to accept that if you're going to move into another region later on, whether it be the most expensive one, which is Champion Europe or U23, or whether you're going to get a much stronger position over time in Champion America by diversifying into Mexico, Argentina, Brazil, maybe, for example, you want to be making the most of the rewards you're collecting. You want to make the most of the success that you're making as time goes on. You can't pick the rewards you get. You can't pick and choose when you're going to win, what region you win, and then the luck of the draw in the prize pool, what actually gets spat out to you on rewards day. There's nothing worse than getting a reward that you're dissatisfied with or you're not enthusiastic about. But by having these tertiary cards as backup guys that will just fit in, plug in and play in the right situation, ready to complement some of these new incoming cards, then it means almost every time you win a card, it is adding to your club, it is moving you forward. You don't see it as, oh, I can't believe I won this guy. He is useless to me. You want to give yourself as much of an opportunity, as much of an opening for every win, every card that you capture to become as valuable and as useful to you as possible. So if we're thinking about a squad of about circa 20 cards, let's say we've got around 4 or 5 of those goalkeepers, we pick up a similar amount of defenders and midfielders, and then maybe we get 2 or 3 strikers. That all adds up to around 17, 18 cards, give or take. It's the ones on top of that that are going to get you to 20, 25. You want some of them to be in different weird and wonderful places that you can try and explore slowly over time and gain extra exposure to. You also want to be filling some of these gaps up with just blanket trade opportunities. You know, guys that are injured, they've been dropped, they've went to a non-SO5 league, but you know they're about to come back, or you've heard a rumour they're about to transfer. Some cards you have to buy to trade in the market to get yourself moving up the ladder, so to speak. But you have to understand that there's going to be a lot of cards, or some cards, that you're going to have to hold on to for as long as possible and make utility out of and make use of in the SO5 arena. Once you've diversified and once you're differentiated what each card's job is, it makes it much easier to make clinical decisions as time progresses and as you're growing your club. Those clinical decisions that you can make very clean with a core strategy and a philosophy in mind, knowing what that card's initial intention was for your club when you bought it, makes things a lot easier to action and execute when the time comes. Hesitation is what kills a lot of managers when it comes in the market. Oh, I bought that guy and I really wanted to keep him, but now he's so expensive, I really should be selling him and capturing the profit. Or I bought this guy and now he's a dud, he's dead weight, I've wasted money on him, I might need to cut my losses on him and move him out. All these difficult situations where you've got a big question mark over what to do can become much, much clearer when you've got those clinical decision-making processes in place already. I bought this guy to play him, so even though he's a dud for now, I'm going to ride the waves. Hopefully he captures his form back over the next couple of weeks. Or this guy that's dropped off the face of the earth, I know he can make a recovery. How long will it take to make a recovery in terms of his form will be dependent on the situation. And then those analysis at that time can help steer you between making a rash decision where you sell something for far too cheap, or you sell something which you think is at a peak. But if you're selling something that's so cheap, it's taking such a bad loss, is it maybe worth your while? Is it maybe more economic to just hang on and just wait for it to come back? And equally, if you're selling something because it's running away and it's doing amazing, what is the impact of selling that? Is the money really worth it? Is it really going to hamstring you in SO5? Is he your best player? These are the things that you have to know when you're buying the card. What is the purpose of having it? And what is the exit point? So I would always have cards that are clearly marked just as trade opportunities. You're looking to buy them as cheap as you can, and then you're waiting for some sort of upward trajectory on their price for you then to exit them. Leaving the cards that you've got to the side already. There are SO5 utility cards. When these other things happen, you can maybe hang on to them a bit longer, even though they're running away in price or they've crashed down, because that was the strategy. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes when that happens and a guy runs away in price and he goes and he's the hottest thing in town, it makes sense to sell him and then reinvest that money into the club or skim some profit off and pocket it for yourself. Of course it does. And equally, if some guy gets totally wiped out and he's not performing for you and he wasn't what you thought he was going to be, sometimes you do need to cut your losses and move that guy on and forget about him and move forward. Most people make those decisions without knowing what the consequences will be to the club or to the gallery as they're moving forward. And it's about understanding those consequences will help you make better decisions. Is this guy the goalkeeper I need to be playing for America? I know America goalkeepers are really popping off now, but if I sell them, I've not got one, and then I need to go buy one and they are expensive. So it's understanding that as much as anything else. And remember, guys, progression, strategy, it's what you make of it. You make the rules. It's not down to me to tell you this is the right thing to do and this is the wrong thing. Everything that's in this video today is my insights and my hints and tips from what I've learned over the last 2 years. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Is there something I've missed that you would add in? About to pop on screen now, guys, there's some other stuff you like. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share and retweet, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.